From Venture X Studios, it's JP, Kathy, and the crew.
Excellent. Full show for you today. How are you? Welcome to the crew. Hope you're doing well. Okay, I'm going to be cleaning my eyeglasses again. Note to self, this new brand of eyeglass cleaner, I have gotten either that or I've got lotion on one of my eyeglasses. So luckily I don't have any copy I have to read from Dr. Good today, and I can introduce her in my sleep. I've introduced her a bajillion times over the years. We are JP, Kathy, and the crew, and we are so excited that you've chosen to spend today with us, or tomorrow if you're watching this tomorrow, or the next day if you're watching it the next day. We've got lots of good information. We've got State Senator, Texas State Senator. Well, obviously, duh, we're in Texas, unless you're watching us from another state or another country, which we know we've got some folks who follow us, our podcast, and in other countries, and so we say hello to you. But she is a Texas state senator. We have just wrapped up yet another another special session. This was a very important one because this one, not that they're all important, they all are important because they have to do with we the people and our taxpayer dollars. So they're all about us. But this one had redistricting involved in it. So we've got different congressional lines, different state rep lines, some different state Senate lines, and different state Board of Education lines. So we're going to talk with her a little bit today. Also, we hope to get into a little bit of discussion. If anything, I'm just going to give you information about the November election. And everybody's like, November election? There's not a presidential election or a gubernatorial election. There is a constitutional amendment election, which is an extremely important election to vote in. And if you vote, you'll be like one of the less than 10% that votes. I don't know. It's a crazy low number, but we want to try to get that number up, and we definitely want the crew to vote. And voting is actually going on right now. So ask Dr. Rebecca Good of the Ask Dr. B Good show is with us this morning, and we're really glad to see you, Dr. Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little cold. I'm in my daughter-in-law's house, and she keeps this place like an icebox, so pardon the winter wear.
Well, and that's why I was like, are you outside drinking a cup of coffee? Because it looks like you're in Colorado. You're all parking up. Now, I like your daughter-in-law because my kids always say, Mom, we can hang meat in the house. I'm with her. I love it cold, so give her a big old thumbs up. Anyways, cute scarf.
Thank you.
Well, so, let's talk today. We've always got something new with education. We thought education was going to be boring, and then COVID hit.
So yeah, it's hard to know where to start except to say that this poor district, Carroll ISD, has got themselves caught up in something that we shouldn't just think is the Carroll issue. They just had the misfortune of having a teacher videotape and send this to the news. But it's going to play out, if it hasn't already played out, in many other districts in Texas. And that is House Bill 3979, which says, let me read the quick summary of the bill. The quick summary is, it's a Texas law passed May 2021 that restricts how teachers discuss controversial issues, bans them from saying that slavery constitutes the true founding of the United States, and prohibits schools from awarding credit for students engaging in any kind of political advocacy. Okay, so that's a very quick summary of that bill. And now what schools are being asked to do is to interpret that. And in Carroll ISD's instance, what they were giving a training on it and how the need to show various perspectives on historical issues, and one of them was thrown out as, like the Holocaust. And of course, I know that more than likely the Carroll curriculum, I think it was the assistant superintendent, sort of threw that out without thinking. And then somebody said, well, how do you show the other side of the Holocaust? What other perspective is there except that it was all wrong? And so that was a quick moment of not really thinking that answer through. And somebody was taping it, sent it to the news, and it's hit, national. But it really speaks to the confusion that districts are feeling and that teachers are feeling, especially because in Carroll, not but a few weeks before, a fourth grade teacher of the year was reprimanded by a vote of 3-2 school board members to reprimand her because she had sent home a book for fourth graders on anti-racism. And so the message that teachers were getting in Carroll, and then by spreading the news outwardly, other teachers in other districts were getting the idea that teaching anything about race could get them reprimanded or worse. And I know that that's not the message that bill is meant to send, but it is sending due to the interpretations of different districts.
Well,
it's very confusing.
And that's where, that's where it's one of those things you've got to be really careful, especially when a bill that, well, heck, this happens, Dr. Good. I know you've been, involved in a bajillion legislative sessions when it comes to education like myself. Even non-controversial things that pass through the state legislature here in Texas or anywhere can turn into something controversial depending upon the interpretation from the local ISD and their board back home. And so there may have to be some clarifications, I would imagine. But I think what I hear out there is, and this is even back in the 90s when I taught, we had to be really careful. Like one time I had a political bumper sticker on my car supporting a certain candidate. And because I parked in the teacher's parking lot, somebody said I couldn't have that bumper sticker on my car. Now, you know me. I kept that bumper sticker on my car the whole election season, just saying. But, it's one of those things that as a teacher, you do, and you know this, you've been in the classroom, you have so much influence over those kids that you want to make sure you're very careful about. Here's about not offering up your opinion, about teaching fact. And, I had to be really careful back in the day. I was, involved in politics when I was a teacher and was starting off in politics and was very, loved it and, well, still love it, was very passionate about it and always wanted to talk about it. But I had to be really careful with my students. And when we talked about, for example, in special education, when we talked about the elections, I had to make sure I didn't say, well, this party wants this, and, because my tone of voice probably would have been gleeful, and this party wants this. I had to just stick to the and you're laughing, but you know me, and you know how my voice must have sounded. So, I had to be really careful about sticking to, here are the facts. Here is how old you need to be to vote. Here is, and we went through, and this is even with my special education kids, because I'm like, hey, you guys have a voice too. And you can have somebody with ADA, you can have somebody go into the polling place and into the voting booth with you. So it was one of those things where I talked about the process, how do you register to vote, things of that nature. And then with having been a drill team coach as well, with the girls who were interested in what I was doing after school hours, I had to say, hey, I got to talk to your parents first, and I can't talk to you about it while we're here on campus, kind of a thing. So I think so many, and we see this with the with the news, with quote unquote journalists, people giving their opinion or talking about how they feel about something. And this is one of those, you got to stick to the facts, what was it, Dan Aykroyd? Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts.
Well, unfortunately, facts are fuzzy these days, just like science has become fuzzy. It just, people gravitate towards an understanding of what they believe in, and the internet feeds them more of that one side. And in their mind, that becomes fact. And so,
that's a good point. That's a good point. That becomes, what is it they say? And this is one of those phrases that makes me crazy. It becomes their truth or whatever, because they're emotional about it and they're attached to it. And I needed math. I needed math back in the day, because it's a miracle I'm a college graduate with my my fear of math. Let's just say it is a fear. I wish there would have been fuzzy math, and I could have been like, "Well, this is my truth. I know it should have been a positive 26. I've got a negative 2." I feel very strongly about this.
That's my answer, and I'm going to stand by it.
Yes.
But really, if you think about it, I challenge districts now to understand the need to teach teachers about what the internet has done as far as algorithms are concerned.
Yes.
And our search patterns.
Yes. Yep.
That needs to be the beginning of the training now, to say, before we talk about historical facts, let's talk about what you're searching on your computer. Because if you're searching one side of your known understanding, then you may not be getting the whole picture, and you may not be giving what is fair to students. But, on the other side of it, the other argument is, should we be teaching just facts, or should we be teaching inquiry? And so we challenge students to go back and research the historical events, and then research fully to see if, and I would love to do this because I loved social studies and history. If I were a high school history teacher, I would challenge students to go and find the whole truth according to all of the stakeholders in that time. What was happening with the Native Americans, what was happening with the African Americans, what was happening with the colonists, all of that, so that when we bring our projects to the class, that we are reporting from a myriad of sources of what happened during that event or that time period. That I would love to do that.
Well, and I think it goes to one of those things. I know, I think those of us, and JP, he was one of those who was raised, he was a big old speech and debate person. So was I. And there were times, I remember my speech coach making me take the opposite side of a topic she knew I was very passionate about. She was a great teacher. She knew what she was doing. And I was like, Mrs. Abraham, I can't do that. And she's like, you will. You don't have a choice. And, it's interesting. And that was, back in I want to say, Dr. Good, that was probably back in 8th grade. And here I am almost 55 years old. I remember that to this day. And I remember how I felt having to take the opposite side and having all the research that you have to do with that. But I think that's I almost wonder, and this is something that maybe there's a need out there for this type of person in the ISD world, to do a professional development series with teachers, especially with new teachers who have known nothing but their Twitter feed, their side of their Google searches and all that kind of stuff, and teach about, hey, you realize the reason you're getting things that say A, B, and C all the time, even if it's not factual, is because this is, Google knows what you like. And so maybe there's a professional development series that needs to be out there, especially with those newer teachers, so they can realize, wait a second, I do have a greater responsibility than just my own opinion. I've got these young minds who are my responsibility, and that needs to be first and foremost. So I don't know, maybe you and I should create a professional development series like that. I think you're onto something. I think you're really onto something that is a need out there.
Well, until we acknowledge the fact that we may be getting sucked into thinking a certain way because of the algorithms of Facebook and the internet and so forth, we maybe won't question. And I think we need to become more questioning in what we are reading and thinking is truthful reporting, right? And so I know that there's some trainings out there on identifying neutral news sites, but not enough of it. Frankly, that would be part of our training, is how to find neutral, fact-based
where's Walter Cronkite when we need him? Where is Walter Cronkite when you used to have to, back when JP first asked me to be on his show. Now, obviously, we're not a news reporting. Now, we do. It's not that we don't report news, but we're more for the, hey, you're going to get our opinion on this show. You're going to get our guests' opinion on this show. You're going to get some serious stuff, but you're going to have some fun, kind of a deal. But I remember it was very much you had to have several sources for any given story, and you had to vet those. And you could be yanked off the air. I mean, literally, they would have rather have gone to blank dead air, which is unheard of, than have somebody out there doing that. And things have changed now, and you've got people who I think people assume are journalists, but they're like us. They're just a radio or podcast personality. Not that there's not a place for that, and it's fun, and I love it. I'm not a journalist by any means.
So have you noticed when you're reading articles that now they put adjectives in front of a fact? For example, their fact, they'll say something like the lies that Donald Trump, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, wait.
What?
Or they'll say, they'll stick these opinion words or these adjectives in to discredit what they're about to say.
Yes.
And it's like, you never used to see that in there.
You know what? I didn't think about that, but, and you and JP and I, we exchange tons of articles all the time. And I'm sitting here thinking of any articles we've exchanged on any given day. You know what? I bet I could go back and find at least one or two instances of that in every single article we've exchanged. It's a very good point. Yeah. And it's something to be aware of when you're reading it.
Well, I've learned that I cannot do a single source anything anymore, that I look for patterns in what I read over time. And so when I bring something to you, usually it's because I've been looking at different headlines over that same issue or event or whatever, and I've picked up the prevailing truth, I guess, or the prevailing sameness within those different sources that I can feel comfortable reporting on. And so, but you have to do that now. You have to, and if you have a brain that looks for patterns like mine, it's maybe easier, but we all need to develop that skill. That's another possible 21st century skill that we need to look for.
And you're right, times have changed, and education has to change with it. And on that same note, Gail Meeks, who's obviously, Gail, member of the crew, she was asking, and this is something you were talking about, was with this TikTok doing like a school spirit thing. So she wants to know, is your eye still on the prize with how to get school spirit stuff going when it comes to TikTok?
Well, I did put it out there to superintendents all over the state of Texas. We have a thread that is, I can't remember the app, but immediately that day I put that out there and I put it out to Legacy. And so I haven't seen anything come of it, but I'm going to keep pushing it because I keep reading. I just read today, there was a young lady who was arrested because she went after a disabled special ed teacher. And she's 10, I think.
Wait,
so,
what?
I mean, this is very serious. Yeah, a 10-year-old, I believe it was, that was arrested for putting her hands on a disabled special ed teacher for TikTok. So, it's...
Wow, it's a tough
we have a
time.
lot of work to do.
We really do. We really do. And and let's talk about what you're going to be discussing on your show Sunday. We're going to talk for a little while. I'm going to talk a little while after we finish our segment with you. October is mental health awareness month. We've got so many things going on, and obviously, we've been real big on pushing. Your mental health is as important as your health, your physical health. So let's talk about your show. You've got a very important show coming up on Sunday.
Well, we recently were impacted by a suicide death, and it rocked our world. And this is somebody that might be interesting to have on your show. There is such a person called a phenologist, and a phenologist is a specialist in death, dying, and bereavement. And in spending time with her, I learned some things that, of course, the educator in me just could hardly wait to share out because it helped ease the family pain a little bit. And so I thought I would do the same. There is a stigma around suicide, unfortunately, but I think in the right context, people can feel more comfortable discussing it, and that's always our goal, right? In anywhere, but in mental health, especially, being able to talk about mental health issues in a more comfortable way, because we have terms and reasons, rationales that we can hang our brain on and wrap around and sort of explain the why, right? And so we'll be doing some of that, and I've asked you to be on because you've spent so much time with the mental health, pushing the mental health acceptance, right? The acceptance.
It hits us all, Dr. Good. Well, and thank you for that. And yes, and I'm very honored to be on your show this Sunday to discuss this. It's if you think mental health does not touch every single family and in turn every single life, you're crazy. And if we're not out there talking about it, just like we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys winning on Sunday, we're missing the boat. And especially during this pandemic, we're just missing the boat.
You've heard me say that I wish people were as comfortable having a counselor as a family lawyer, right? As part of our go-to when things get a little rough. And life is a series of challenges and obstacles and good times. Yeah. And being comfortable tapping into mental health resources to get us through the challenges and the obstacles should be a natural part of our health recovery. But it doesn't seem to be yet.
It's not.
It's getting better.
It is getting better. I agree with you on that. We have made strides, because I've noticed not only on our show, even back when we were doing, drive time radio, we felt so strongly about it. We had one day a week. Yeah, you got it. And it was one of those things that it's just, and you hear of more and more people talking about it. We have This Pink Cloud on our network, and they discuss it within the world of recovery, drug addiction recovery, alcohol addiction recovery, sober living. It's a big part of it because so many people who have turned to self-medication, most of them will admit they thought about that at one time, and some have attempted it. And so it's something we have to talk about. And then we've got to get into the habit of saying, hey, have you, even if you go once a year to a therapist and just have a session where for an hour you kind of talk, because then that person is trained to look for a red flag. So if we go and get our cholesterol tested once a year, why aren't we getting our mental health tested once a year?
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah.
I might say that on your show on Sunday. Well, thank you, Dr. Good. And just know that we've been praying for your family, and we're just anything y'all need, and we love y'all, and we're just praying for y'all and asking for God to just wrap y'all up in some good memories, and anything you need, you just let us know. And thanks for being on today. All right.
Thank you.
Have a great one. We'll see you Sunday.
All right.
All right. So ask Dr. Be Good. She will be she's on every Sunday from 8 to 8:30. This is going to be a very important, very personal show for her this upcoming Sunday. And mental health, we can't talk about it enough. It's one of those things that if we neglect it, if we ignore it, it's not going to go away. I would ask anybody in the crew who's on right now, I'm asking, first of all, if you need help, JP and I, we're not the experts, but we know people who are the experts, and we have people who you can get to. We will keep it confidential. We will not talk about it on our show. Just say, hey, need help? Need help for myself, need help for a friend, or hey, have somebody who's got A, B, and C, and you don't have to tell us who it is, and we will make sure we get you to the right resource. So please, you can always private message us on any of our social media feeds. If you want us to reach out to you, then not a problem at all. Just say on one of our feeds that you're on social media, give me your cell phone number and we'll take a call. Don't let fear of embarrassment or fear of somebody judging you get in the way of you saving your own life or saving the life of a friend or a family member. And we've talked about this. Just do, it seems like we always reach out to our friends when something great happens. Hey, I won the lottery. Well, that's not very, I got a new car, my kid's going to this school, or, I just got a promotion at my job, or I'm going on vacation. And we tend to share and want to, talk to our family and friends about that. We need to be just as comfortable. And I can tell you right now, mental health has touched several family members in my family. And so I've dealt with mental health up close and personal, and it is hard and it is ugly and it is heart-wrenching. But when you love somebody, you keep plugging and you keep getting them you try to get them the right help. And so I've got family members and I've got several friends, but one in particular that when I feel like I'm drowning because I'm helping a family member, I don't think twice to pick up the phone and call, because sometimes just that reassuring voice, or those of you who catch our show Heart and Soul of Texas Women, Lisa, who is my co-host, who has become a spiritual mentor to me, I can call up and just say, hey, can you pray for me right now? Can you pray for somebody who I love who's hurting right now? And there's nothing wrong with that. It should be just as simple as picking up the phone and calling somebody and talking to them. So let's, here on JP, Kathy, and the Crew, let's be the ones who change that and who make it okay to talk about this stuff and maybe save a life. You never know. You never know. But I know when I'm having a tough time, boy, that friendly voice, non-judgmental, friendly voice on the other side of the phone it's a lifeline, and very blessed to have that. So if you need JP and I to help get you to the right people, again, we're by no means experts, but if you know somebody who needs help, or if you need help, we're here for you, and just let us know. So because we love you and we love the crew, and we want to help. Let's see, what else do we have? We've got Angela Paxton, Senator Angela Paxton. She'll be coming on at 8:45. Let me, okay, no problem. So that gives me some time to, Brett, can you pull up that list that I sent to you? And this is some, we got to have a little bit of fun. So let me find my list as well. Oh, he's got it up on the screen. So, okay, before we go, and look at you, picture within a picture. Brett, you're so good. So, had a member of the crew come across this. Oh, I should have already had this pull up. Okay, now I've got a gut health. That eating sauerkraut is good. It's a good probiotic. That is not the article I wanted to talk to you about today, but it's good to know. So this is a list, and we'll keep going on this until we get Senator Paxton coming on. But this is a list of 40, I think it's 40 things. Yes, apparently if you did any of these 40 things growing up, you are officially old. Like I need somebody to tell me that, because when I wake up in the morning, my knees from decades of dancing let me know you are old. But this is just in case, and I came across some of these, and these were just hilarious. Okay, so if you have ever watched, let's see, can we see that TV? Yes. If you have ever watched TV on an ancient device like this. And okay, y'all, these are the days, and I would love to have the crew chime in. These are the days where the TV if you were a fancy family, which we weren't fancy at first, you had the click remote. But a lot of times, I mean, I remember these before we got the TV that had the click remote. And I'm not talking about the kind of remotes you have now or the 19 remotes you have now. But you had to literally stand up. Hey, kids, guess what? You had to walk across the room and flip the channel manually or turn the volume up and down manually. So if that's a sign that you're old. Okay. The other one, now I didn't have this, but I had several friends who had this, so I'm putting myself in this category. Had to physically remove your car's stereo to stop it from getting stolen. Remember the ones that kind of fit in, like where your radio is now, and you had to remove it and take it with you, or else somebody was going to break into your car. And I remember when I think it was, and Dad, if you're on the feed, I think it was when I was living with you when I was finishing up school at University of North Texas, and my radio was stolen. Just anyways, so that was the thing. And nowadays, I think they're so connected, and I don't know that anybody could even, it'd be easy. But I remember back in the day, people stealing radios out of your car was a thing, even if your car was locked. Okay, and this, literally, if somebody bought me a box of these, I would still eat them to this day. If you ate ice cream out of a toilet paper roll. Okay, first of all, it was not a real toilet paper roll. But yes, it was shaped like it, and yes, it was made of the same material as a toilet paper roll. Okay, that does not sound good. But it was filled with orange and vanilla. Remember the dreamsicles that were in these? And there was like a push-up pop. You would take off the top of it, and then you would push the bottom, and a little bit of ice cream would come up, and that way it didn't like get all over and drip all over your hands. So, yep. Another one of those. Yes, yes, and yes. Let's see. Oh, number 4, and I'm going to say this was me. Talk about distracted driving. This was texting before texting was around. Almost caused a 15-car pileup trying to find the perfect CD. Goodness gracious, I must have had a guardian angel with me when I was going to what is now Texas State, used to be Southwest Texas State University, up and down 35. Oh, it was like I was a DJ in my own car. That's distracted driving. So anyways, that was texting before we had texting. And then this one, had to set the TV to channel 3 just to watch movies. Do y'all remember that? Like you had to have, and kind of, and now I guess that's kind of the equivalent of Source, like when you've got your smart TV. But I remember that well. And you had the, the blizzard, the white and black static going on. Okay, now I didn't do this. My husband said he totally remembered having to do this. Drove a car that needed 2 keys, one to unlock the door and one to get it running. And you think about nowadays, most of the newer cars, you just have a key fob, so you don't even put a key in the door handle. Like I saw a young lady opening a car with a key the other day, and I thought, wow, it stood out to me because you just don't see that anymore. Everybody's, clicking and you get in, and heck, half the time you've got a car, I don't, but a lot of people have those cars where you can start it before you even get in it. You can cool it down, warm it up, all that kind of good stuff. So, wow, back in the day. Okay, and then still have a mouthful of scars from these. The Lollipops used to cut your tongues, and a lot of these, I think if it was the off-brand, now this never happened to me with like a Tootsie Roll Pop, and I wasn't a real big fan of those anyways, but or now I was a big fan of the Charms Blow Pops. So this must have been like the generic version of that, where you would lick that and then it would it almost felt like it had a shard of glass in it. So did anybody feel that? That was a good one. Susan Schuler, which tell Miss Texas we said hello, and we're looking forward to having her back in November. She said her dad was a TV repairman. And, he had all the tubes that he would use to repair those. Oh, that's so great. Oh, that's so great. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I like those were fascinating kind of a thing. So how fun is that? Okay. Did you ever live this nightmare? get off the internet. I need to use the phone. And that back in the day, if you were doing a dial-up modem, am I using the correct term? Of course, I look over to Brett, who's like, Kathy, I'm young enough to be your child. I have no idea what you're talking about. So get off the internet. You need to use the phone. And you could not be on. I remember like being on the internet looking something up, calling somebody, and I think this was back in my young Republican days when I was first married, and it was one of those things you could either look up the information you were trying to look up, or you could have the phone conversation. So you would have to say, hey, let's go look up and find A, B, and C, and then I'll call you back. Wow, have times changed. Just crazy. Okay, do you remember exactly where this exact piece of paper used to be in your house? And if you look at this piece of paper, and I know we can't blow it up, I hope you can see it on the screen, but it was a list of phone numbers. Oh my goodness, of course I had one of these, and it was usually in a spiral notebook that had all kinds of fancy designs, and I'm sure I probably put I love David Lee Roth and, Mrs. Kathy David Lee Roth on it, or Mrs. Travolta on it. Those were two of my big ones back in the day. Anyway, so I remember it was a list of phone numbers. And it's so funny because I've always talked about how if the zombie apocalypse happened today and everybody's phone went down, well, first of all, if the phone went down, we wouldn't be calling each other. But if you lose your contact list, you're in trouble, because how many of you can remember your childhood phone number, but you do not know your 3 best friends' phone numbers by heart? Just saying, that's something to be said for that. Okay, then let's get back to this. The phone list. We may want to make an old phone list. Okay, so here we go. Next, burn the heck out of your arm on one of these on a hot summer day. And it was like the little and now that you really don't see these in cars any longer, but there used to be cigarettes. Most folks smoked back in the day, and those little cigarette ashtray, I don't even know, receptacles, I guess is what you would call it, were so hot. If you ever sat your arms down and the car had not cooled down yet, especially in a state like Texas, oh my goodness, yeah, you'd burn the bejeebers out of your arms. So does anybody remember those? And then, here's another one. Let's see. I think we can get a couple more in before we get Senator Paxton on. Bought a soda on an ancient machine like this. And it's so funny because I went to the Texas Federation of Republican Women convention this weekend, and we were at this great hotel in Round Rock. The Kalahari. Anyways, great. I highly recommend it. It's a great place. They've got a water park. It's just wonderful. But and here I am telling on myself, the soda and water vending machine on our floor was so complicated, I could not even get a drink out of it. I would swipe my card and then go to make my selection, and then it was like, make your selection. And I was like, okay, so then I tried making my selection and swiping my card. I need to go back and look, because I'm wondering if I got charged like $25, and I never got a soda out of there. So that's another one. I love this. Waited days for your pictures to develop, only to find out that they were all of your thumb. Oh, and there's the throwaway. Love the disposable camera. How many of you were married in the 90s and you had these out on the tables at your wedding reception? I did. Anyways, I was no choice. I mean, I literally had pictures, and my nails used to be really long back in the day, and there would be like the inside part of my nail. There was always something. Like I've got so many pictures. Even back when I used to take pictures of my students when I was teaching at Plano East, half of them, you can see the picture and everything, but there's a little something at the top of the screen, and that was my thumb or my finger. So, yep, I'm guilty of that. Let's see what else. And Brad, if you'll let me know when the senator comes on. Okay, so said either this. Who remembers saying, call me back after 9 when my phone is free. Do y'all remember? Think of how much you're on the phone right now, texting. We do so much show preparation via texting, or you get a conference call. And think of how many, if you add up all of your minutes that you're on the phone communicating with somebody, be that Zoom, Google Meet, texting, emailing, phone call, FaceTime, conference call. And I remember literally, and if my dad's on the feed, he's going to be like, yes. Oh, and Coach Quigley, he's like, yep, 424-1854. Yeah, I 633-0814. I remember it like yesterday, and I will never forget that. So I remember. Okay, so we're going to wrap up because we've got serious stuff to discuss now. But I remember my dad busting my chops. One of my very first cell phone bills when I was in college, because I was still kind of dating my boyfriend who was back in Dallas at the time. Yeah, Dad, remember that phone bill? Yeah, so anyways, I kind of got in trouble for that. Oh, there we go. Now we've got Senator Paxton on. Anyway, so those are some fun things. I must be old because I identify with like all of those. Hey, Senator Paxton, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm trying to get my audio here a little bit better. I can't hear very well.
Okay, well, we can hear you. You sound great. And you look good.
Well,
you look good too.
I can hear you. Okay. How's everything?
Well, we're rocking and rolling and whatnot here. You're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for somebody who just wrapped up the 19th special session. No, I'm just teasing.
Something like that, right?
Something along those lines. We've had quite a few special sessions. This one has been very intense because it involved redistricting as well. So tell us, are we sine die? Is there another special session around the corner? Do you feel like it was a successful session? What are your thoughts?
Yes, I mean, I feel like, there are always a few things that, not everything that you wish happened. But I will say this, at the end of the regular session, when the Democrats walked out, broke quorum to keep us from being able to file or to pass the election bill, the election integrity bill, they actually opened the door to giving us extended time to pass a number of other things that were also on our agenda that also died in House calendars. So it's been a long, hard road, but I think the upside of it is that, yes, we did finally pass the election integrity bill. In spite of what happened, it just delayed the process.
Yes.
I think the bill got better as it went along.
Oh, excellent.
The other thing that happened was we did finally, in this last session, this third special session, we passed all of the redistricting bills. So in the House and the Senate, we passed all the maps, which, of course, the governor still needs to sign off on these to make them law. And we are pretty certain, as is their custom, that the Democrats will sue. But the reality is that we have the maps that we need. We did our job. We passed fair, legal, transparent maps with a process that took good public input and adjusted to the things that people were asking for. And I think we've got what we need. The additional thing that is a benefit to this is that we don't have to move any of our filing deadlines for candidates. We can keep everything as it is. We will still have our primary, assuming the governor signs, March 1st. We will still have runoffs all at the same time. And so that's relief. But on top of that, we also passed the Protect Girls Sports Bill.
Yes.
Which means that students can compete in sports according to the gender that is named on their birth certificate. And one of the very last bills that we passed, like around midnight on Monday night, actually was a bill to raise the homestead exemption from $25,000 per homestead to $40,000. per homestead.
Oh, wow.
So
and
we'll
I had not
really,
heard those
strong
figures.
property tax relief as well.
Wow. See, so there have really been, and again, and I've run across several folks, and I know you have as well, who, well, why couldn't we have gotten this done earlier? Well, a lot of this could have been done, but we had the opposition party that is not in power leave, and that was all over national news. A lot of them were in D.C., and you have to have butts in seat. I don't know how else to say it. It's like when you're teaching kids, you got to have butts in seats to teach the kids. You have to have those butts in seats to teach or to pass legislation. And so anybody who's saying, why are we doing another special session? Because we have to get the business of the people done.
Mm-hmm. Well, in this final special session, we did have the ability to finalize some things that had we've been able to address because of the extension of time on the regular session created by the first two special sessions, which were really around the election integrity bill.
Right.
But this special session was always going to happen. The one we just finished.
Right.
It was always going to happen because it was the one really focused on redistricting.
Right.
And of course, that is something we have to do every 10 years. It's a very complex process.
It is.
We did not get numbers from the Census Bureau until much, much later than we had anticipated. And so we had to finish this process by November 15th.
Absolutely.
In order for us to continue our election process in Texas.
Absolutely.
With the primary dates that we have. And, one of the things, Kathy, when I don't know if you have an iPhone or not, but I have an iPhone, and I know if I'm gonna move or rearrange the apps, you hold down one of the apps and then they all start wiggling around,
yes,
right?
Yes, I've got an iPhone, and I always accidentally do that.
Yes, and so it's kind of funny. And then once you make your decision, you lock down and everything stops, right?
Right.
But while it's all moving around, it's because everything could move. And that's a little bit, on the political landscape, that's a little bit of what's been happening with, candidates who are interested in different districts and that sort of thing. Until the lines are actually drawn, you can't file, right? Because you don't know what district you live in and that sort of thing. The other thing is the ideal population. Texas population grew by 3.9 million in the last 10 years.
Say that figure again, because
District 8, my district,
say that figure again, Senator Paxton. That's a staggering number, and I don't think there are so many people who don't. Okay, first of all, we are mandated. It is law that we have to do redistricting every 10 years when the census comes out. Say that number again, because that's a really big number, and that took a lot of work on y'all's part.
Well, 3.9 million people moved to Texas, or our population increased by 3.9 million people. And what came with that was recognition of that, 2 congressional seats.
Right.
And I know we were all kind of hoping for 3 at a certain point. We got 2, but it's interesting for everyone else to know, no other state got 2. Only Texas.
Did not know that.
Texas is the fastest growing state. This is where everyone wants to live.
Yep.
And there's a reason for that.
It is. Well, we've got, I was just mentioning how I was at the TFRW convention this weekend, and one of the statistics that Governor Abbott put out there is Texas, the state of Texas, is the 9th largest economy in the world. That's big.
Yeah. I mean, in its own right, we as a state are the 9th largest economy in the world. Yeah. And one of the things that does is, when Texas does something, when Texas takes action, other companies and other entities, not just in the United States, but in the world, they pay attention to what Texas does, because being such a large state, and this is to some extent, we've seen this with textbooks. Kathy, you're familiar with this landscape.
Oh, yes.
California and Texas, the standards that California and Texas have adopted in the past, generally speaking, the big textbook companies, they build their textbooks around Texas and California standards, because if they can get Texas and California to adopt their textbook, that's such a big market footprint, right?
Right.
And so what that ends up doing, though, is it impacts all the other states. Well, Texas has definitely surpassed California in that way. And so one of the things that we see is that companies do the same thing. When Texas passes law, then other states tend to follow suit because the big companies, the big decision makers are going to kind of build around a Texas model. And so it gives us an opportunity to really lead in the nation. And I think it's so important right now when we're looking at other policies in other states that are about taking away individual freedom, that are about, harming the economy, policies that harm their economies. Texas has chosen otherwise. And then it gives other states that are smaller the ability to kind of tag on with us and leverage that.
Right. Well, and so I think there are so many. First of all, congratulations. I believe this was personally my feelings. I believe this was a successful special session. Nobody's going to be 110% happy with everything. But again, the process played out. There was lots of input from we the people. And so, again, thank you for your service, because I know this is, when you become a state senator or a state representative in the state of Texas, your plan is, and most people plan their business life and their family life around it, that you're in Austin 6 months out of the year, every other year. Y'all've been at it for much longer than 6 months, and so we do appreciate your service, and also Senator Paxton, we really appreciate your accessibility as an elected official. I don't know how many people I've sent your way, to either you personally or somebody in your office, and I always get the response, "Thank you so much. I can't believe they called me back. They resolved my issue, or they explained to me where I needed to go so I could resolve my issue." So, first of all, thank you for doing what we would expect you to do as an elected official, but unfortunately, that's not the norm. So we really appreciate you for that. And then let's talk a little bit about the constitutional amendment election and why is this important. Just a couple of quick facts: early voting just started on October the 18th. Early voting ends on October 29th. You can also vote from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on November 2nd, which is Election Day. An important date that's coming up is October 22nd is the last date you can file to get a mail-in ballot. So a lot of people, get out and vote when it's the gubernatorial election, when it's the presidential election. What about these constitutional amendment elections? Why is it important for we the people to get out and vote?
Well, thanks for bringing that up, Kathy, because that's so important. When we pass laws in the House and Senate, in a legislature, it just takes a 50%, a majority to pass a law. But something people will remember, 2 years back, we actually had constitutional amendment to prohibit a state income tax in Texas, right? Well, it was already law that we cannot have a state income tax in Texas. Why do we need a constitutional amendment? And the reason for a constitutional amendment is it raises the bar to overturn the law. In order for something to become part of our Constitution, it takes, number one, a supermajority passage in the legislature, which means we have to pass it by a 2/3 vote in the Senate and a 2/3 vote in the House. So not just a majority, but 2/3, 66.6% of all of the members have to pass it. Then it goes to the people of Texas. It goes to everyone listening on this call to vote it up or down. Yep. If it is voted up, if it's accepted or approved, then that law becomes part of our Texas Constitution. And in order to overturn it in the future, it would also take a 2/3 vote. So you would basically have to pass in the future another constitutional amendment to undo a current constitutional amendment.
Right.
That's why we did that with property tax. We've done it. I believe we have 200 and such constitutional amendments that have been passed since we've had our Constitution. But these are things, our Constitution can only be amended by 2/3 majority in the legislature and a popular vote, majority of a popular vote. So there are some very important things on the constitutional, on the proposition. So they're called propositions. There are 8. I'll send you a document, Kathy, that you can post for your viewers.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
But they include everything from looking at applying some property tax exemptions for spouses of members of the military that died in active duty. It includes one that's very, very important to me that I worked on directly, and a lot of our Collin County delegation worked on, which is the Freedom to Worship Act. So
yes.
Everyone remembers there were churches closed right across the state in certain local municipalities, and we knew that we wanted to make sure that this national constitutional right was beefed up in Texas, never to happen again. And it was actually an idea brought to me by a constituent who's a pastor. So that's a Proposition 3. Proposition 3.
Okay.
So I've told people, like, 3, the Holy Trinity. That's
yes.
the Freedom to Worship
exactly.
Act. Vote for it, so that no governmental entity can close churches in the future.
Right.
There are some things that have to do with counties having expanded ability to do infrastructure bonds. There are 8 different propositions, and they're judicial candidate qualifications, and they're not. If you just go into the ballot booth, you may not really quite get from the ballot language, what are they talking about here?
Right.
What does this mean in detail? And so if you'll go to the document that I'll send to you, it's a TLC, which is Texas Legislative Council, put together a great document that talks about, it puts the language in, it puts the ballot language in plain language, and then it also gives reasons that were given in testimony by opponents and supporters of the bill. So you can kind of see where you line up.
Excellent. Okay. And that sounds wonderful. And we may even, if we can, bring you in after the constitutional amendment is not, we've got November 2nd, so that's a Tuesday. So maybe if we can have you on that November 3rd, if we can plan ahead of time, so you can come in and you can talk about the results, what passed, what does that mean? I think that might be a really good bit of information for everybody out there. How does this impact me as Joe's citizen? And then I'm anxious to, and you and I were victory co-chairs together this last cycle. So you and I geek out over the numbers like voter turnout and things like that. I really hope with advancements in social media and communication that we have a sizable turnout that truly does represent the state of Texas this time, because as you know, this is always such a low voter turnout.
Well, it is because, number one, you don't have candidates driving turnout. Right. It's these inanimate propositions. Right. Right. And people might think, well, what is I didn't even know there was an election. I hear that a lot.
Oh, all the time.
Who's running?
Right.
Right. I hear that a lot.
Right.
Your Constitution is running.
Yes.
That's who's running. Your constitutional rights are running. And so, I'll get that to you, because these 8 constitutional amendments affect property taxes. They affect church remaining open. They affect charitable organizations being able, there's one that is to allow a couple of rodeo associations to do charitable raffles at the rodeos.
Right.
They're all over the place, but they're 8, and they are your decision. They're your decision, and it is historically very low turnout. Make your voice heard.
Absolutely.
In some ways, Kathy, don't you think too, when there is a low turnout, think about what that means also. Each person who actually does turn out is a much bigger percentage, right, than one person of 39 million, right? So
yes, so true.
You are really you have kind of an oversized impact in these low turnout elections. So that's one reason, again, especially with the freedom to worship amendment that is up. I hope all of you will make sure that your pastors, your churches are aware of this, because early voting has started.
It has.
It started on Monday.
Right. It's underway. And again, if you need a mail-in ballot, Friday is your last day. Well, today? This is the 20th. So, yeah, the 22nd is your last day to request that. And so there's really no excuse to not get out and vote, Senator Paxton. It's you drive in, you drive out. I'm telling you, there aren't going to be long lines anywhere. And you may think, well, this isn't a very, not a very sexy election cycle because nobody's on the ballot. You know what? In some of your local cities, you've got propositions that are on the ballot. You've got, tax proposals that might increase your taxes, maybe improve your roads, maybe not. So again, it has to do with going along in your everyday life. And so I'm so glad you've taken the time to explain the importance of this. And you're right, your voice will definitely be heard, because unfortunately, now I hope we're wrong. I hope you and I are sitting here going, wow, you know what? Turnout was it was over the moon. It was off the charts. I just have a feeling we're going to be sitting here saying, thank goodness for the people who voted, because very few people actually got out and exercised that right. So, well, thank you so much, Senator. We appreciate your service. We love it when you're on the show, and just praying that you have a great week. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you on November 3rd for a constitutional amendment wrap-up.
Well, thank you. It's always a real treat to be on with you, Kathy, and I appreciate what you do to really remember that it's together that we will keep our future free.
Amen.
And I'm so thankful for what you do to do that. Always have, always will.
Thank
and
you.
I'm delighted to have you as a friend.
Well, love you, my friend. Take care, and we will see you soon. Thanks so much, Senator.
Okay, go vote, everybody.
Yes, go vote. Well, that was Senator Angela Paxton live from Austin, finishing up yet another special session. And a lot of stuff is out there. And we'll go ahead and we'll put that list as soon as we have that. We'll put that out there on our social media sites. It takes 2 seconds to search and see what it is you need to vote for, and to see where to vote. There's literally going to be a place where your kid's got soccer practice going on, when you're in and out of your job, you're at the grocery store, somewhere within just a few miles of where you are, even right now, is going to be a polling place where you can go vote. It's super easy. The election judges and election clerks will help you out, and just research before you go in. You can go to your county website. So, if you're in Collin County, you go to collincounty.gov. If you're whatever county you're in, you can get a sample ballot. So you can look at that and be like, oh, wait a second. Oh, I'm actually in one of the cities where we have some, bond proposals, or some propositions on the ballot. So you want to make sure that you educate yourself ahead of time. Like she says, definitely remember number 3 as a positive. I'm voting yes for that one. So just real important to get out there and vote. Let your voice be heard. And we've talked about this before. It's just, barely been 100 years since women can get out and vote. And then you look at other countries and you look at how limited democracy is and the voice of the people is. And we live in the greatest country on God's green earth. You can get out and vote. It's either heated or air conditioned, depending on the weather. And that could be hot or cold if you're in Texas on any given day, but it's just super easy. There's curbside voting. I'll never forget when I was pregnant with my son, I was on bed rest, but I did go because I was like, the way I told my doctor that it should have been okay is because I was so stressed out if I couldn't have voted in a constitutional amendment election that I went ahead and I drove and I called curbside so that way I didn't have to get out, didn't have to go in, and I voted literally from my car like I was at a drive-through for fast food, and it was just that easy. So anyways, just get out and vote, and then also, since we did talk again about mental health today, if you're in trouble, reach out, let us know. We'll hook you up with the right folks, and just love on each other. Try to get out there and spread some kindness instead of so much venom and anger. And we love you. Have a blessed day. We'll see you on Friday. And then we've got the lawyer show tomorrow. Actually, Jeremy Rosenthal, who is the host of that show, his law firm has just won a great honor. So I'm sure he'll be talking about that. If not, I'm bragging on him now. And then Friday after our show, you will have This Pink Cloud. And a great show about recovery. And again, mental health and addiction a lot of times go hand in hand. So check out Kelly Reverb on Fridays on This Pink Cloud. And then Saturday morning, we will have Kilroy's Conversation, everything that has to do with our veterans. Sunday, Ask Dr. Be Good. And then Monday, we're right back at it again. Have a blessed day. See y'all soon.